Our new sponsor, Better, is a fast-growing daily fantasy sports app. When you sign up using promo code PLAYBOOK in all caps, you receive a free pick and a 100% deposit match up to $77.
Welcome to the NBA Hangout presented by Playbook Sports. I'm your host, Brandon. With me, as always, is Dave. Dave, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We've had a week of crazy basketball action. I think it's just made me crazier in the meantime. So we're going to try and get through this. How was your week in the NBA world?
Surprising? Is that fair? You know, is it fair to just say surprising?
I think surprising is very appropriate. We had like a 29-point comeback, I think, just about a week ago with OKC on the Memphis, and that's not even like top of the news anymore. That's like old news. That's not even the freshest comeback we have anymore. So I think surprising is more than appropriate.
Except like I was thinking about it earlier, and like we had been talking about like awards and stuff, and you know, at one point you and I spoke about like coach of the year, right? And it was Kenny Atkinson, and it's a good choice, but like none of the awards have necessarily been surprising. Maybe the most surprising is like most improved. But then you think about it for like 10 seconds and you're like, well, yeah, Dyson Daniels winning most improved is probably the right choice, right?
Yeah, for how these awards go, it's 100% right.
Yeah. So like I was like, oh, you know, none of the awards are like really surprising. Like, it'll be really surprising when, you know, like Kristaps Porzingis wins MVP. But other than that, like all the awards have been pretty straightforward. However, the games not straightforward.
Yes, the games have not been straightforward whatsoever. And I think we can start with let's go into the Boston and New York series. So this episode, I think we'll go through some of the series that are going on right now in round 2, and we'll also reflect a bit about round 1 and go back and talk about some of the things that happened there. But we'll start with some of these surprises today. We have another surprise with the New York Knicks coming back from 20 again to beat the Knicks by 1 and to go up in the series 2-0. What are your thoughts on all of that craziness going over in Boston?
I'm dumbfounded with the Knicks leading Boston 2-0. Like honestly, I thought this would be like Boston in 5. Like I thought they were going to exploit the Knicks defense and that this was just going to be, you know, a statement series for Boston saying like, hey, we're going back to the championship. Just get ready. We're here. We're ready to go. Everyone's basically healthy. We're healthy enough and we're good to go. But, you know, they live and die by the 3 ball, and they're a team that has thrived on the 3-point shooting, and they've been terrible. Like you were quoting numbers to me earlier. What were they in this game? 25% from 3?
Yeah, 25%
That's
for
like the worst in the league.
Yeah, it's not good at all. And then the last game, there's something similar to that, and they shot 60 of them, which, you know, so in this game, they tried to correct. They tried to get to the paint a little bit more and shot less threes, and it was looking good for most of the game. And, you know, they were up 20 points at one point. But one thing's bogged down. And, you know, this kind of reminded me of like 2023 when Miami went up 3-0 against them in the series, and they were like heavily, and again, Boston was a heavily favored team, and they weren't supposed to go down at all. They were supposed to breeze through that series. And it was a similar type of stuff. When things start to bog down, a lot of this iso ball, a lot of stagnation happens, and you know things that were working earlier on the game stop working, and they go back to shooting threes. In the first game, it was a lot of Tatum step back threes. I think it was like he missed 3 in a row, and it was like just ugly stuff. And this one, you know, it was a better effort. You know, they got a dunk in the last like 20 seconds there to go up 1 for Tatum. But then the last shot of the game when they're down 1 and you have it with Tatum fading over like 3 guys almost, it's just not the type of look that you want to get in those type of moments. So, you know, before the playoffs started, one of the things that I did want to track, because Tatum has been one of those guys who's been like, I'm not getting enough credit. I'm not getting the recognition that I deserve. I should be one of these guys in the, you know, the Luka, the Shea, the, you know, the top guy conversations. He's not really there. So I was looking at these playoffs to really like see if he should be there. And with how these playoffs are going, I'm not sure he's really taking that step into that limelight just as some of these other guys have.
Well, he wants it too much. Like I think you just described it perfectly there. Like he wants this level of credit, and then he's got 3 guys on him at the end of a game, and he hucks it up. Like that's the most foolish shot you can make at that time. You have 3 guys on you. That means you have 2 open guys somewhere on the court. And you're Boston. Your open guys are like Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis. Like pass the ball, man. Like you want to be in that echelon, learn when to pass the ball.
Yeah, you could call a timeout. I think they still had a timeout left. Like I know they tried to get the little pick and roll, the pick going with Horford there, so they can get the switch, and then they got switched on to Mitchell Robinson, but he didn't really make enough of a move. You can call a timeout. You could go somewhere else. There's lots of options that you still have with the amount of time that they had left. So it was just it's just those type of things. And I think also something that was underrated from my mind going into this series was New York did build this team to battle Boston specifically. They went out, they paid all those picks. I make fun of these 5 first-round picks from Mikal all the time, but this is why they got them. It's for games like this, for series like this, against a team like this who is wing heavy. Mikal has been great defensively on Tatum. One of the reasons why he struggled, along with OG, who we know to be one of the best defenders in the NBA. So having that wing duo there to go against Tatum and Brown has been really beneficial for New York. I think just an underrated aspect that I think I overlooked when looking at this series before it started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I kind of assumed that the offensive talent of Tatum and Brown would shine through. But you're right. Like you got to give the flowers to New York and to those guys, right? Their job is to slow down Tatum and Brown, right? Like it's you don't have to stop them, you just have to slow them down. And they've been effective. I thought Boston would exploit the weakness of Cat's interior defense. You mentioned they had a dunk towards the end of tonight's game, but like you gotta just go at them all night. You gotta go at Brunson and you gotta go at Cat. Like that's how you deal with it. And if that means that Tatum and Brown aren't the leads, then use them for distraction. Look at the way that Golden State was using Curry as a distraction, like a game or two ago.
Against Houston, yeah.
Yeah, like he's just flying around. They're sending 2 guys at him and he doesn't have the ball, right? But that's the power of a superstar. And like if that's how you got to affect a series, then that's what you got to do. Like Tatum shouldn't shoot over 3 guys. He should draw people out so that you can effectively attack the 2 weakest defenders on New York, Brunson and Cat, all day long.
Yeah, and just just to touch on that, yeah. So 5 of 25 were Tatum and Brown from 3 last game, and that's just like 4 of 15 of that was Tatum, and that's just like too many threes in that game. And when you look at this game now that happened today. I think it was a similar story that we get to see with Tatum and Brown. They combined for, let's see, 3 of 14 from 3, which is just not good enough. Sorry, 3 of 12 from 3, just not good enough. Just not good enough from those 2 guys. I mean, they shot a lot less. Tatum only shot 5 this time. Like I said, tried to get to the basket, but he's still 5 of 19 from the field. He's shooting around 28% on the series, and again, credit to how New York has been able to guard him with those wings. But there's a point in that game where like they're getting some really good pick and roll stuff. You say attack Cat, and like that was what they were doing. Luke Cornett was getting to the basket easily because Cat cannot stay. He doesn't move his feet quick enough laterally to stay on the perimeter to play pick and roll coverage that well. So I think just exploiting some of that more, they should be able to get some more easier buckets, especially down the stretch. Those are just things that they seem to go away from when things get tight. They revert into these old habits. You're able to really get up in them and they start turning over the ball. Brown had a couple turnovers in this one. And it's just the little things like that start to creep in when the doubt comes. I remember last year before the playoffs started, our big question was, when things get tight, how is Boston going to respond? They never really got to get tight last year because everyone they played wasn't healthy. So we never really got to see how they responded. But this year, in this series, we're finally seeing them play a fully healthy team, which we didn't think was going to happen with New York. Fully healthy team, fresh guys coming off a series, competitive as ever, and pushing them to see what happens when they start to break. And so far, they haven't been able to respond to that call.
No, and I remember Steve Kerr not playing Tatum for Team USA. And there was a lot of talk about that. There was a lot of like hand wringing, like, oh, is Tatum one of the best 5 players in the NBA? Like, this is a bad stretch, but you should have him on the floor. Is Tatum's Achilles heel the fact that he cannot perform in high stress games? Like he'll put up numbers, but you're looking for something extra, right? Like, even if Kobe had 10 points in a game, he got the ball at the end of the game and he knew it was going to be a good shot.
You felt confident. You felt confident what was going to happen with the ball there. And, that's just not the case with Tatum right now, and hasn't been the case. Like, his game just feels a little bit predictable just because of the playmaking aspect is lacking from him. So you don't really feel confident that he's going to make the right play. You have confidence that he's going to get a shot up. Whether that shot's going to be good or bad, you don't know. You really don't know, and that's kind of the issue with Tatum at this point. When Brunson puts up a shot, you feel confident at the end of the game with Brunson putting up shots right now. Like, you feel good. You're like, okay, something good's going to happen right now. Tyrese. Another guy we're going to talk about. You feel good about these guys shooting the ball in these moments. It's just not there yet with Tatum as I think it should be or could be.
And I think it's the one thing that is stopping, like, if you talk to a Boston fan, they're going to be like, oh my God, like, you guys are just sleeping on Tatum. And, like, are we, or is he just missing this essential skill that makes you a slam dunk, no question superstar, right?
Yeah.
And like, I can kind of like, I can see the frustration from like Boston fans being like, you guys are all sleeping on Tatum, like, he's so good. Because I'm a Raptors fan, and I always feel like people are sleeping on the Raptors and they've got no idea. And then, like, if you're honest with yourself and you listen to like the national media and what people are saying, maybe they got a point. The Raptors aren't this like hidden gem, and Tatum just doesn't make that shot that you need. Like, he doesn't make that, and he'll make one or two in his career, and everyone will point to like, oh, remember in 2027 when he hit this shot, right? That'll become a conversation at some point, but he's not making them enough. He's not like, Tatum wasn't in the running for clutch player of the year, and maybe he needs to be.
You know what? And the guy that I do feel is terrified of whenever they have the ball at the end of Jaylen Brown. For whatever reason, he hits a clutch shot. Him and Derek White, that's going in. I don't know what happens to them in the last 10 seconds, but those guys I have the utmost confidence in that they're going to score the ball if they can get a shot up. But even with Tatum, like, even going back to 2023, bringing those parallels into it is Jimmy outplaying Tatum in these series, and you just wouldn't have Jimmy as like this marquee player. That he's a marquee player, of course, and that was like his best playoff run where he was coming off of averaging like 42 points against the Bucks. But at the same token, you expect that more from a Tatum than you do Jimmy. But Jimmy would rise to these occasions. You have faith in him, and when your team's down 3-2 and stuff like that. If you're missing a guy, you have faith that Jimmy's able to carry over the hump for a game or two. You just don't get that same assurance when, even in that series in 2023, it goes to game 7 and Tatum gets nicked at the beginning of the game and he's using that as an excuse post game. It's just the little things like that build up, that these little character things that make you have just lose a little bit of faith in what his potential might be. And you know what? And talking about potentially, like, he's still a top 10 player in the NBA. Like, we're not knocking him in the slightest. Like, he's still a top 10 player. It's just to be in that top 3, that top 4. It's just these little things that have to change for him to get there, I think.
Yeah, as a Raptors fan, I mean, like, I really wish he was on my team so that I could be like, y'all are sleeping on Jason Tatum, Raptors superstar. But he's not. He's a Boston. And my stomach turns.
Yeah, your stomach turns. Yeah.
But poor Jason Tatum. We beat up on this guy too much.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that other guy, that other guy that I brought up there, Jimmy Butler. So he's on Golden State right now, and he is missing a superstar now. So
Yeah.
Curry goes down with a hamstring injury, first hamstring injury that he's had in his career, but it's a grade. I think they classify as a grade 1. So
It's going to be
could
about
be
a week.
back. Yeah, about a week. Game 6, if there's a game 6, that may be a chance that he comes back for that. What is your outlook now on this Golden State Minnesota series? One game in, Golden State did win the first one. Minnesota looked kind of lifeless. Golden State coming off of a series that they fought hard to. They went to 7 games and they had a pretty heroic seventh game from Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield carrying that momentum into the first game here. So yeah, how do you feel about this Golden State Minnesota series to start?
To start, I kind of thought Minnesota would win out in the end. It's just too, for Golden State, like Houston was this big grinding team that almost caught them. And then you go from Houston straight to Minnesota, and they're the same kind of thing, right? Just big, strong team that's just going to grind you. Golden State's champion, multi-time champion, lots of guys who know what they're doing, but you need Steph Curry. And I'm gonna draw some comic book parallels because that's what they're doing in Golden State. So Steph Curry is apparently Batman.
So they say
Jimmy Butler is Robin. Buddy Hield is apparently Alfred. Okay, understanding these roles, I've read a Batman comic or two. When Batman goes down, the best the rest of them can do is to just try and hold the line until Batman gets back, right? Batman is the one that wins. Batman is the hero. The only way you defeat the villain is when Batman returns. So they absolutely need to find a way to get to game 6. They will not win this series without Steph Curry.
Yeah, so basically you're gonna need Jimmy to give you probably one more win. Just
you need
on his
at
own.
least one more. Yeah,
he got a torn butt.
Robin to step
he got a
up.
broken butt, torn butt, whatever he's got going on there too. So he's limping around. He's trying, but you're gonna need one more. I guess another parallel you could bring into this. We have the comic book stuff there. I'll bring in the Dragon Ball Z stuff. It's just when Goku's hurt, and they're just and the Z fighters. You have Piccolo out there, you have Krillin out there, you have Tien out there, just trying to hold the line until Goku comes back healthy so that they can beat the villain. That's all Golden State really needs to do right now is get one of these games. So do you think that Jimmy, Buddy, and Draymond is enough? Draymond looking like clay out there in that first game with all these threes. But do you think that's going to be enough to steal one from they got one already, but this Minnesota team isn't going to go out lightly. They're going to come back harder. They're going to play much harder. They're going to see what this intensity it felt like. I think they're at a bit of a disadvantage going into this series because they won their series in 5 against the Lakers. The Lakers defense is severely lacking in comparison to what Golden State can provide. So this is probably their first real feel of the playoff intensity of this year. So that probably shell-shocked them a bit in that first game. But now that they felt it, now that they're here now, do you think that they can get the job done before Steph comes back?
Can they win 4 in a row? I do think Ant's going to respond really well to being challenged publicly. I don't know. Like, do you think? I don't think I would have ever suggested that Minnesota would win 4 games in a row in these playoffs. I just don't know if they're a complete enough team. I think you put them in 7-game series and there's enough there, but like to win any 4 games in a row, I don't think they have it. So no, I think this series will get to 6 at least. And then you've given Steph a week to rest. I feel good about this being a 7-game series.
Yeah. I think I'm there too. I think they're going to be able to pull one out. Even if I feel like they're going to drop the next game.
Yeah,
they're going to drop the next game and just kind of
2.
Yeah. They might drop the next 2 games, but I think they're going to. I don't want to say not play their hardest, but I don't think they're going to give all that they can give in that next game in that's on the road in Minnesota. So I feel like they're gonna drop that game, and then after that it becomes a series. And I think once it becomes those when those lights are brightened, I think Jimmy's gonna be able to just give you one heroic performance with Draymond and Buddy kind of backing him. Or maybe even a Podzinski. You never know who the next guy's going to be. Kuminga might be able to find his way some point during these playoffs. But yeah, I think this is going to be an exciting one. I think there's lots of stuff to go on here. Jimmy hasn't really played in Minnesota since he's left there. He's always missed that game. He's always missed that trip. So this is his first time really getting to taste Minnesota since he's left. He got a couple boos last time. He's probably going to hear that more.
It's a completely different Minnesota team. Like,
I know, no one's there no
I'm a
more.
Minnesota fan, like
no one's even there anymore.
Yeah, like
Cat's gone.
Cat's gone. Wiggs is gone. Like, you became a completely different team once you got, you know, Ant.
Ant wasn't even there when all this happened.
No, not at all. Right?
He
like,
wasn't even there.
Like, he doesn't understand.
Even the ownership's gone. They're gone too.
True.
Everyone's gone.
Everyone's gone. They just wear the same jersey.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's about it. Legend killer Ant. Will he be able to get another one in these playoffs with Steph? And I guess I don't know if Jimmy's really in that tier, but Steph for sure is. He got KD last year. He got LeBron in the first round. LeBron and Luka in the first round. Does he get Steph and Jimmy? Nah, to carry on this
Steph, Jimmy, and
Randy
Dre.
Orton streak he's got going on.
If he does, are OKC enough of legends yet? Right? Shea's a young guy. You know, Jalen Williams is a young guy. If he matches up against them, they could be Edwards' kryptonite because they're not yet legends. They're just really good in the moment.
They're not aging stars. They're not aging legends. Yeah, that might be it. That might be where their run stops. And I think, you know, when we go into that series, that's I think this Denver OKC series, I think we can go into that right now. I think that's enough on Golden State, Minnesota. Unless you have anything. No, I think we got
nothing
everything.
Really.
Yeah, we got everything there. Yeah, so going into this OKC Denver series, which I have on the screen right now, OKC is up over 30 points. They were close to 40 at one point. So I feel safe to say that they will at least win by maybe 5 points in this game. I don't know if it'll be a convincing win, but the way these playoffs are going, a comeback can still happen. So I can't call the game just yet, but I'm getting pretty close that OKC should be the first home team to win in round 2. We'll see. I don't know if 40 is enough. We'll see. But in this series, I think we're looking at potentially what could be. I almost want to call this a sneaky NBA Finals type of matchup here because I don't know. I think whoever wins this series kind of wins the playoffs the way it's panning out right now. It might be a little early to call that, but the way that Boston's kind of looking, the way that the Cavs are looking, I could be underrating Indiana because they're just crazy apparently. But even the way that Minnesota, I know the flaws that Minnesota have, and I know the flaws that the Warriors have. Even if they come back, they're going to be real banged up in a conference finals match if they are to make it there. So I almost feel as if whoever wins this series has a pretty good shot at coming out of this as NBA champions.
At least coming out of the West. I agree with you. But yeah, once you start to like look at the favorites in the East, I think you might be right. I think this is best teams in the playoffs right now might go like Oklahoma, Denver. You're right. It might be the Pacers at the moment.
Yeah, like I don't know if I could comfortably put Boston there, even though it's kind of unfair to them.
Should be Boston though.
Yeah. And even Cavs, like they were up big. I mean, they won their first series big, and it's just the second series that they've completely fallen apart. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge these teams.
So based upon what you've seen, who in your opinion is the MVP
of the playoffs?
We'll just say of the league this year.
Oh boy. Best player Jokic. Best player Jokic. But then he has a game like today where it's clear that he is the guy that they can attack on defense and he don't bug them at all on that side of the court. And that what just gives me pause when I go for MVP with him at times. His offense, greatest that we've seen the past however years. Like this run that he's on right now is like completely insane. And honestly, probably would be MVP if Shea wasn't around. Like that's basically his only competition right now. Shea hasn't played the best in these playoffs though, so that would kind of like lower my rating on him. Like he had one really good game against Memphis, but most of the part he was taking a lot of shots and he wasn't hitting a lot. And a lot of that was at the rim, where he was really good in the season. Is where he excelled at. It was at the rim, and in the playoffs he's been missing a lot more at the rim. That could be due to more physicality. Things go a little bit more, not getting the same calls as you would in the season. So there's a little bit of an adjustment period that has to go on with that. But he hasn't been quite his best in these playoffs. And I would say Jokic has been better in these playoffs. So it'll be between those two guys. Again, it's really what it comes down to, which is probably why I would take one of these two guys to ultimately one of their teams to win this year. Because I think these are the two best players that we have going right now in the NBA.
So if you had a vote, who does it go to? Just right now. Yeah,
if I had to vote, no, I got no vote. But if I did have a vote, it would probably go to Shea. It would probably go to Shea. I think we underrate his defense just a touch. Like this is a top defensive team, and he's a big part of why. His deflections, his steals, he could almost be on a defensive team every year as well. So I think I would go Shea off of that. And yeah, Jokic would be my number two. When does it get announced? It should be announced soon, right?
Should be soon. I think I'm still Jokic. I don't think Shea has done enough to knock Jokic off. If you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, if you're coming up from that perspective where this guy is there and you got to get to there, then
you got to get to there.
Yeah.
Be better.
Yeah.
However, if we're just looking at the playoffs, is Halliburton the MVP?
If we're just looking at the playoffs, so they took out their first round matchup again. Who did they take out? They took them out so quickly. In the first round, I was just like, they took out the Bucks, and I was like, Jan should just be able to get at least a couple games off of them. He was only able to get one, and then the Dame thing was a travesty. Like it was just bad all around. He definitely outplayed Dame. He definitely was, if not the best, the second best player in that series. And in this series right now, he's putting in a lot of work. I wouldn't be mad if you had a playoff MVP and Halliburton's on your ballot at this point. I think Halliburton, Brunson, Ant would all be on my ballot as well.
That's a good ballot. It's a really good ballot. It's crazy that it's like all point guards though. Well, Ant's supposed to be a shooting guard, but it's kind of the point.
Yeah, but it's more lead guard. So it's the lead guard again. One thing that I did like, I think just touching back on that, I just remember something in that Golden State Minnesota series, talking about Ant, is I did like how Randall was able to get his own in the previous series against the Lakers, and I'm wondering if that's going to be the case in this Warriors series. That first game he looked brutal. He looked like old Julius Randle. But I'm just chalking it up to again, heightened intensity, playing a new team. They got a lot of rust, all that. I'm giving them all the excuses for that first game because it was bad. But if he is able to play at the level that he was in that Lakers series and be a real number two to Ant when they start, really being aggressive with their defense on him, they're gonna look to him again to score, and they're gonna need to do that. Same thing with Rudy Gobert. He closed out that series with a 20-20 game, and he just by being the biggest guy in the court, he could still be the biggest guy in the court in this series. So he needs to show that he is that.
That's fair. Yeah, because he's, if anything, you're gonna put like Draymond on Randall. And you're right. Like Gobert should be dominating. Is it JaVale McGee for Golden State? No, it's
Quentin Post.
Yeah, I was gonna say Point. Yeah, I mean,
Post and Looney, and the corpse of Looney has been rolled out there. They don't got much going for them at that center position right now. So it's another series again that could be won by these bigs. If you're gonna punish them, you can punish them by being big. Jimmy doesn't like playing against super long athletic teams anyway. So you stack up all these bigs and stuff like that. You should make it hard for him, and that gives you a chance of just closing this out before even Steph gets back onto the court.
Yeah, like they've got, you're right. Like they should have every opportunity. I don't have the faith in them, you know.
Yeah. It's tough to win 4 in a row.
Tough one.
Tough to win 4 in a row. Jumping, going back and forth. Jumping back to that OKC Denver series though. So we do have this MVP battle. We got a Canadian battle. We got Chet versus Jokic. And I think we saw in that first game, we saw all sides of that. We saw some good with what Chet can do, and we saw some bad with what Chet can do against Jokic.
Yeah.
So I think it's one to watch. I don't know who really. Cause the nice thing about OKC is what they can do is they can play a bigger guy like Hartenstein. They're even letting Jalen Williams kind of guard him one-on-one a little bit, and they can bring the help from different areas. And then what I saw with a guy like Caruso even being like a help guy, he can come and help and dig and just fly all the way back out to the shooter in like a split second. Like he's so quick at doing that. He's good at anticipating. He knows when to dig. He knows when to stay disciplined. And that rubs off on guys like Dort is like that too. Cason's like that too. So, they have a bunch of these guys who can like help out efficiently without having to sacrifice your entire defense or sell out your entire defense to get a stop and lose position. So I think they OKC being able to play around with that should give them a little bit of an edge as this series goes on. And Jamal Murray versus whatever they got going on at OKC. Again, they have all these guard defenders who can fly around. So Jamal Murray, when he's playing well, like he was in that first game, then they always usually have a shot. So I'll be watching for that too, because I think he can. He is the older Canadian guard in this series, so I think he can. Almost like big bro Shea if he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There should be more from like a Murray, but. Also, like Mark Daigneault, you should have won Coach of the Year. Now's the time. You've got, as you say, you've got all these guys. You've got all this switchability. You've got all these options. You should be working them. You should be coaching. You should be showing us that the voters made a wrong decision, and you're Coach of the Year. Like to me, this could very easily just be a coach's series. Yeah. And Daigneault's got everything he needs. He just has to do it.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, to that point, I thought he kind of not overcoached, but like he had a poor coaching moment in that first game. Which I think a more experienced coach might not have done. So he was doing the thing where you're up 3, you foul. Because they're up 3, you foul to stop the clock. They only shoot 2 free throws. But you get the ball back, all this stuff. You go and you play this free throw game now. My only issue, usually, whatever. You're up 3, you foul. But I think there just has to be what needs to be taken into consideration is time, clock, and possession, like where you are on the court. So they're up 3 with 11 seconds left, and Jokic was off the court. Denver didn't have a timeout, so they couldn't sub back in Jokic. So Jokic is off the court. You're up 3. The ball was in the backcourt still, so they had to inbound it from underneath their basket. They inbound the ball, and OKC fouls right away, no hesitation. And in that moment, as it was happening, before anything else even happened, before the full breakdown happened, I was like, why would you do this? Because you have only 10 seconds left in the game. They're not going to shoot a full court shot. They're going to try and get the ball at least to half court. You can play tough defense until half court, until they look like they're about to shoot. Then you can foul before they shoot. Yeah. You wait until then. You don't have Jokic on the court. You can even play out this possession. The best they're going to do is hit a 3 and tie up the game. Jokic is not on the court, so you have a good chance of them not having a great offensive position since they rely on him so much. And in that fourth quarter, it was a lot of Jokic. It was a lot of Jokic getting whatever he wanted, finding whoever he needed. So a lot of the other guys might not have been in rhythm to do so. So Mark, I think in that situation, you don't need to foul right away up 3. You can play it out a little bit better. And I think that was just like a little moment of OKC really showing their youth. OKC showing their youth, the coach showing their youth, just the whole thing showing their youth, because there's no reason for them to lose that game last night. Yeah, sure, you still had your chance to shoot your free throws. Chet missed 2, but that's the risk that you play when you do this 5 foul game. Is that now you're
Yeah.
putting the pressure back on your players to make shots again when you didn't need to in the first place. You could have just had one clean defensive possession. Game's over. No Jokic on the court. You live to see another game. You're up 1-0. Instead, you missed 2 free throws. You come back down, and Aaron Gordon hits a game winner, his second game winner of the playoffs.
His first game winner of the playoffs was awesome.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Again, this crazy playoffs. Like
I've
even mentioned this.
Never seen like a buzzer beating dunk like that. Like,
it was crazy. It was
unbelievable.
like to the second, like it was on the tip of his fingers. So outrageous stuff.
No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, because like you just play it, no threes, no fouls, and should be all right, right? Like it's less than half a possession. They still have to bring it up court. They have to do so in a controlled manner that they're not going to turn over the ball to your 1,000 defenders who love to grab steals, who love to jump passing lanes. Yeah, you just don't let them shoot that three.
Yeah,
you make them go inside.
And if they get past half court, you could still foul if you need to. You can make that call.
Yeah.
But it's just that, time possession. That was the youth of OKC in that game. Seems like this game they came out with a much focused mindset. They're still up by big, so I think we can safely. I don't want to say it, but they're up 30 with like a quarter left. I think we could safely say that they'll pull away with this one.
I think so. Yeah.
At 1-1. OKC Denver should be a good one. As is, we'll bounce right back over to the East with I think it's the last series. Yeah, the last series that we need to talk about, the Pacers and the Cavs. Again, Cavs favored to win this one. Pacers are up 2-0, winning both games on the road. What are your thoughts on this one so far?
The Cavs are broken. The injuries are too much. Evan Mobley's too important to this team. And the Pacers, I think, are just a lot better than we give them credit for. We talked about the Pacers a little bit earlier in the season where we talked about how, they've relatively maintained their offensive efficiency, but they've brought up their defense. And let's not forget the Pacers went to the conference finals last year. They're a good team, but they also started this year really poorly. So they went behind the 8 ball and they had to play their way back into the playoff picture. So are the Pacers misseeded, if you will, right? Should they have been a higher seed in the East? Should they have been second, third? Well, they probably wouldn't be second. Boston was second, but should they have been the third best team in the East?
I'm starting to feel like they should have been. The depth on this team is just really, really, really good. You look at the box score for these teams, and again, in that first game, I think it was about 5 guys that had over 10 points. That scored double digits, and in this game, counting now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys again in double digits. So they just have depth everywhere. You don't know who's going to be able to light it up. At one point, Pascal only had 12 points in that game, and they're fine. they still scored 120. They still scored 120 points. Benedict off the bench had 19 points. Tyrese gets you 19. Neesmith is one of these guys that just win you games. They do the winning things. They're gonna crash the board. So in that last game that they won by 1, he had an important rebound off of a free throw to keep Indiana close enough for Halliburton to make some magic happen. So you have guys like that on your team. Turner is still there, being a solid just anchor. He still plays a little weak for my liking at times, but he is there and he is altering shots and he's doing what he needs to do to help this team win. And then Nembhard, who, when the playoffs come, is a playoff riser. And, I might have one guy in particular that I probably underrated is Nembhard, a Canadian boy too. I don't know how I could do it. But for sure, this is the second playoffs now where he stepped up when playoffs start to happen. He did have 8 turnovers last game, but 13 assists. So he kind of offset that 13 points. And he didn't hit a 3 in the last game, but he usually hits an important 3 down the stretch. He's a reliable guard now that they have, then they can roll out there. So, the depth of this team, I think, really plays to their benefit we've talked about it all year about depth versus star builds, and Indiana might be the your strongest example for a team with depth and how deadly it can be on any given night.
Yeah, and I think Indiana is just one of those teams that you don't necessarily think of the depth of Indiana, but you start naming them off like Matherin, Nemhard. Let's not forget TJ McConnell. Let's not forget they have Jarris Walker. Or is it Wallace? I forget.
No, Walker, you got it.
Yeah, so like they've got players that are just going to come in and fill in when Turner isn't his best, when Siakam isn't his best. And right now, Halliburton's probably the best he's been all year, which as Halliburton goes, so go the Pacers.
Especially that offense.
Yeah, he's one of those offense into himself kind of players. He just makes it work.
And I think defensively, when you look at the Pacers too, like that was their big struggle last year. I think this year, so when Cleveland played the Miami in that first round, they had the whole thing of attacking Tyler Hero. That was who they're going at. They're going at Tyler Hero. I think even if you try to employ that same type of thing where it's going against Halliburton, he just stays a little more. He stands up a little tougher in these matchups. He gets around things a little bit better. Like he's just a better defender at that. And you can't exploit him in the same way that you're able to exploit a guy like Tyler Hero. And what was interesting with that Miami series was that when Garland went out, it made it harder for Miami to attack the Cleveland defense and get into the paint because they were struggling to get into the paint. Then as the series went on in that second game, they're able to get into that paint a lot more. And basically, a guy, Kyle Anderson, was talking about it after the series that they were able to really attack Garland and the game started to really open up to them and they started to figure out what they needed to do to beat the Cavs. When Garland was on the court, when Garland got hurt, it made it much tougher for them to exploit that in that same type of way. So now you have all these injuries on the Cavs, and the stats reflected too. Like with Garland and without Garland, the defense is like night and day almost. So you get back Garland in some of these matchups, and I don't know if it's going to help your offense, but I don't know if it helps your offense enough to the point where your defense might suffer too much. So it's going to be an interesting balance to see how this series plays out with all these injuries on that team. Mobley for sure has to come back for them to have a chance in this one because Mobley is their anchor, defensive player of the year, and we see why. So he needs to be back. DeAndre Hunter going down too hurts him as well. But I think as long as they get Mobley back, they can kind of figure out the rest from there.
Yeah, I think Mobley's more important. So the players like I would worry about on the Pacers when I first think about them are Halliburton, Pascal, and Miles Turner. And I think Turner's covered by Jared Allen. I'm surprised Siakam only had 12 points because he should have some room to operate. And Siakam can cook. That guy can chef real well,
especially with no Mobley.
Yeah, no Mobley and no Hunter. Like who's guarding him? Jarris Walker? Like
Strus not there.
Yeah, Strus doing the business.
Strus had 23. So that's the thing. That last game you have Strus giving you 23 points. You have Mitchell giving you 48 points. Yeah. and you lose. You lose the game. Like it's not a game that you automatically just win. You fought to the end. Like even if they did win, it would have been a fight to the end of the game, and you end up losing. Like it's Jared Allen gave you 22 and 12. It's just no one else gave you much of anything. Sam Morril did what he could. Dean Wayne didn't give you much. Ty Jerome didn't give you anything. That was his worst game of the whole playoffs with 1 of 14 shooting. You're not really looking for Okoro for much offense. I think, this is where you get into the tricky thing of not having enough depth on your team. Looking at guys for like Dean Wade and Sam Morril and Okoro to provide you stuff. It's tricky in playoff situations.
Yeah. And it's like we've talked about it a lot. Like I just feel like depth is the new superpower. Maybe it's just the CBA, but you need that next man up to keep going, to keep yourself in. And this is like Golden State's challenge is like, can they keep themselves in? And we're gonna see what their depth can provide. But yeah, I don't know. Indiana's looking good. they were my darling last year, and I'm gonna have to like readjust and maybe reback the Pacers.
Yeah, they were. You had them winning the in-season tournament. You had them winning everything. I think you had them going to almost to the finals last year. If not the finals, then you had them going to the conference finals, and they did. They went to the conference finals. So
yeah, I think I had them sneakily going to the finals, but losing in the finals. I thought they'd win the cup, but lose the finals.
Yeah,
this year I don't know. Could they win it all?
I mean, the way these playoffs are going, anything can happen. There's I'm open for anything happening at this point. Even OKC dropping a 30-point lead in the fourth quarter. I don't know what. Like, who knows? I think that'll do it for this episode. Is there anything else before we head out? Any general playoff news or anything that we didn't talk about that we should touch on quickly?
Shout out to Pop. That guy's amazing. He means so much to so many players, to the San Antonio community, to the greater basketball community. Greg Popovich has been a guiding light for a long time. Even socially, like when you go beyond basketball, Greg Popovich he's life goals more than anything else. Like I'll never be an NBA coach. I'll never have the success that Greg Popovich has had. But if I can be, 1/10 the person that man is, then like, I'm a good person, right? Like, and we should all strive to be a little bit more like Greg Popovich. Super sad that he had the health scare. Super happy that he's recovering at the rate that he is, because I believe he had a stroke, and a stroke can completely change a person. And obviously Pop isn't quite the same as what he was beforehand, but hopefully he can get back to a level close to that. He's an amazing human being, and just a person we should all be rooting for. And he's had a fantastic NBA career. And I hope he is not just remembered as one of the greatest coaches of all time, but one of the greatest human beings of all time.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Shout out to Pop, now El Jefe. Great career, magical career. We talk about all the people he's touched, like we talk about his players. But if you're out there, just go search Coach Popovich's his coaching tree, and all the coaches that are now in the NBA and have jobs, who have worked under Pop, played under Pop, have been around Pop. NBA is littered with them. A lot of these good coaches have also worked with Pop at some point in their career. So shout out to Pop. Wish him all the best success in his new role, and all the great, and hopefully he carries on with good health. Yeah. That shall do it for this episode of the NBA Hangout. Presented by Playbook Sports. I'm your host, Brandon. Dave here as always. You can follow us at the NBA Hangout. You can follow me at BJY93_ on Twitter. You can follow Dave here every week. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. Peace.